So now I'm going to introduce, and we'll officially get started. I'm going to introduce Kelly, who is our prayer person today. And Kelly comes from Australia, near the rainbow. It's a rainforest village just up the mountain from Cairns. And she's a very important to our leadership at the Power of Love Ministry. And she's a counselor, a spiritual counselor in training, and a prayer practitioner in training. And take it away, Kelly.
Thank you, Rosalind. I'd love to pray in for us today. Let's place our hands on our hearts and take a breath. Take a breath into that peace and love. We're grateful to partner up with our higher Holy Spirit selves today for this wonderful service that we're about to be part of. We're offering up any resistance and reluctance to the message spoken today and allowing ourselves to be lifted and shifted. We're blessing Rosalind, knowing her word is a mighty word, a mighty power inspiring and transforming us to know the Christ light and hold the Christ light in our minds for ourselves and our brothers and sisters. We're blessing Omi, knowing he brings the light as well, with his beautiful and uplifting music, inspiring us and healing us. We bless Jennifer in her absence too, for her vision and everyone at the Power of Love Ministry that helps bring our programs to us. We remember that giving and receiving is one in truth. We celebrate this. All are the blessed and the blessing. All are whole and holy. And we allow this healing and transformation, grateful to open our hearts. We declare this healing done in the mind of God, and we share these benefits with everyone because we are one. In grace and gratitude, we let it be, and so it is. Amen. Amen. Ashe.
Thank you, Kelly, for that beautiful opening of gratitude and connection. And now I have the privilege of introducing Omi, who is so special to our organization. She has come back several times and transformed our service into a oneness experience for all. Her official introduction is, as a singer-songwriter, musician, Omi has performed on stages throughout the United States for many years. Omi opens portals with her voice. As a shaman priest, she performs, writes, and produces music for ceremonies, rituals, rites of passage, initiations, or whatever is required for the evolutionary state of an individual or group. She also provides music for events, chants, and sings at church services, spiritual centers, and much more. And at the end of our service, you'll find out how to contact Omi. And so can we have one of your blessed songs, Omi?
Ashe. Good morning, everybody. How are you? I'm so grateful to be here, giving honor to God, Oludumare, Spirit of the universe, creator of all things, source of all that is, and giving honor to my ancestors and to Jennifer Hadley, to Faith Rumor, and to the all of you here today. I'm honored to be in this space, and blessings to us all. Ashe. I looked for love outside of me, found myself lost deep within your shadow. I prayed, oh grace, please take me in, back inside to laugh, to live again. 'Cause only love can set me free. Only love can keep me coming. Only love will let me be me. Be the one I've longed to see. In times the pain, it gets hard to bear. Alone with me, longing for someone there. But even though I'll just keep still, to know that God is real, is really real. 'Cause only love will set me free. Only love can keep me coming. Yes, only love will let me be me. Yeah, be the one I've longed to see. Only love will set me free. Only love can keep me coming. Yes, only love will let me be me. Be the one I've longed to see.
Oh, Omi Omi, once again, you bless us with your voice and your message and your essence. Thank you. How beautiful.
Ashe.
Yes, Ashe. And one of the things that I take out of your song is, for me, love is connection. Whether it's a connection to myself or a connection to others, or sometimes we think of it as a connection to spirit. I will introduce myself now, or I will forget. Most of you know me. I'm Rosalind Rourke, and my official introduction would be that I was a psychotherapist for more than 30 years and a trauma specialist. And now I consider myself a oneness coach. And what we were saying together from Omi Omi's song, that connection and disconnection, which is why I made a point of inviting people who don't necessarily have a way into a place like this where connection abounds. That's what we do here. We are a place of connection. And I spent a lot of my life disconnected. I was definitely disconnected from any community. That was a given. I was disconnected from myself, for sure. I felt disconnected from my family. I'm not sure. I think the only connections I really had when I was young were connections to food. Food never failed. I was an obese child, and it worked, except it didn't work with the rest of the world, but it definitely worked to give me that oceanic feeling, that feeling of connection, at least while I was chewing the food. So today's topic, you might ask, why would I be talking about connection and disconnection so much? Well, my topic today started out to be something actually that I thought of as from my mind. And then all the examples that were given to me were not fitting for that topic. And I realized, oh, that's not the topic. Okay. So it appeared that the topic was going to be journeying from suffering to freedom. And by the time I finished preparing with ideas and taking downloads of ideas that came from intuition, it seemed like the topic really should be the technology of freedom. And I was kind of like, really? I don't really like that word. A technology is not very romantic. It's not ethereal. It's not big. It's very rigid, and it's very, you got to get it right. If you're on Chrome, you're not on Safari. Wow. I started realizing, no, actually, that is the right word. And it was a gift. And so, whether you might like the word journey or the technology of freedom and suffering, I would love this to be a collaboration today and have you consider, when in the beginning, as I talk, and in the middle, as you experience, and at the end, what your ideas are. Is it a journey or is it a technology? So let's discover that together. And this is going to be a bit of an improv experience today because we're going to do slides, and Faith Rumor is going to help me with the beautiful song Blackbird by the Beatles. And we're going to experiment with you all participating in the ways that we are allowed to collaborate. So, Angela, if you put up slide 1, please. Thank you. And slide 1, those of you who are in my classes are familiar with this slide. This is called the tug of war. And so you could start with, this is me or you. On the other end is whatever you loop with. When I mean loop, I would say that for my example, early in my life, I would have been looping back and forth with, should I eat, shouldn't I eat? They think I'm fat, I shouldn't eat this. Back and forth, but I want this. It gives me a good feeling, but I shouldn't eat this, and da da da, back and forth. And as you can imagine, in a tug of war, sometimes my desire for the food, which was on the other end, would win. And sometimes later on in my life, the restriction of the food would win. But either way, I was still on the subject of food. There's no freedom in this. Now, if you think of what do you struggle with, what are the themes? It may not be something clear like food, but what are your topics? Do you have familiar topics? Is it your partner? Is it one of your children, all of your children? Is it your finances? We'll have plenty of opportunity later on today. For many people, it's their bodies or an illness or a symptom. But let's just keep this in mind. I'm preparing for a TEDx talk this year. And one of the questions that they ask on the proposals are, what qualifies you to speak on this subject? Well, I definitely could have anytime spoken on this tug of war because that was my life. I could not have spoken on the subject of freedom until the last 4 years. And what happened in those last 4 years? Well, many of you know the circumstances around my daughter Melissa's passing. You've heard the general framework, but for those of you who are new to my story or haven't heard it before, we're still going to stay on the suffering page because when she first passed, it was unexpected. And earlier in our lives together as mothers and daughters, we had our issues. So the tug of war was going on. And it was a very unexpected passing. She was 39 years old. It will be 4 years this January. And when she first passed, it was such a shock that we just really first couldn't believe it. And then I can't really tell you exactly how it was because I wasn't even tracking. My husband and I were just so mind blown that we were just getting through the days. The nights were very rough. It was, could this daydream be really happening? And it was a nightmare. But then the time passed a while, and I noticed that I was doing traditional grieving. I'm a psychotherapist, so I knew well the stages of grief. And I was around when Dr. Kubler-Ross came out with those stages. And I was very grateful as a therapist for her introducing different ways for people to pass in this world and new opportunities in hospitals and so on. But I believed in the stages of grief. And so after she passed, I was in various stages of shock, or I don't know if I was in anger, but I was definitely, you could take my life and I'd be okay with that. So maybe it was a form of depression. I wasn't labeling it at all. I didn't have enough wherewithal to process, which was unusual. And then something happened, and some of you have heard this part, but I'm going to be going on from this part that you've heard. So bear with me, please. I was shaken, and my experience is that I was shaken from the outside. It wasn't nervousness. I wasn't feeling shaky. I was just doing my usual either thoughts about the past, how it was, or thoughts about the future. How are we ever going to do Christmas without her? And just being kind of lost. And after a number of times being shaken, I was woken to something very, very shocking. I had an awareness that in this millisecond, I was not suffering. I could still remember that she'd passed. I wasn't zoned out. How could that be, was my next thought. How could I even admit that I was all right? A loving mother loves her daughter. That means she grieves and hurts, right? And I heard, not necessarily. And it took me a while before I could understand that I was being given a teaching, that in this moment that's underneath the stories, whatever your stories are, whatever my stories are, even underneath the food struggle, I never found the moment that wasn't about a struggle. So this millisecond does not have to do with your thoughts or my thoughts or feelings about Melissa passing. It was not that I was agreeing to her passing, like this is my opinion, this is what should happen. But the fight was over. there was no tug of war with her dying. I usually use the word passing, but I can use the word dying now. It doesn't hurt, and it doesn't mean what society generally means by it, but we'll come to that perhaps later. So, Angela, would you put up slide 2? Okay. Now we have 2 coins. And my daughter Allie makes these slides for me. And when I came up with this concept of that's on the right underneath freedom, where there are 3 different examples of waves, and we'll deal more and more as this experience together goes on with waves and the ocean. But I'm calling the experiences we have in life like waves, bumps in the ocean. And we tend, I believe, to think of, well, this is the small stuff, and this might be the medium stuff, and this is the big stuff. So I think most of you would agree that the big stuff is like your daughter passing away. So we've taken care of that in a way for now. The writing on the left refers to a feeling only lasts 90 seconds in your brain, a feeling, a thought, a perception, a sensation, 90 seconds, unless we add paragraphs. Oh my God, how will I do Christmas without her? Oh my God, our family is only 3 now. Oh, the nostalgia. Remember this, remember that. Oh, those are the paragraphs that we tend to add. And my daughter Allie said, well, when you have a coin, there's usually something that brings them together. And at first, what I was missing was the radical now, this now that's underneath paragraphs, that's underneath the incidents. So now I want to share a word that came to me, and I wasn't even sure I knew the meaning of it. And the word just kept coming as I was thinking about sharing with you. And the word was cacophony. And if you don't know that word, or if you do, it means discordant messages or sounds. I looked it up and I went, yeah, that's what I thought it was. But what does this have to do with the talk? Well, our lives, all of us, no matter whether we choose to live peacefully or whether we're withdrawn types or whether we're out in the world a lot, our lives are like roller coasters, because unless you're living on a mountaintop or in a cave or in some special isolation, things happen. And I have 2 examples. So we have the big one with Melissa passing, but come along with me as I examine these 2 other examples. And then we'll go to the examples in your life and see if there's any freedom that can be obtained through the radical now. And let's see together if there's a technology about this. So my second experience this week was I went to get a new crown at the dentist. I've had crowns before. Nobody loves dental work. At least most people don't. I don't, but I don't mind it. He's there to help me with a cracked tooth, so I'm happy to go. It's fine. I come home and I have Zoom meetings all afternoon. And I wore a mask when I left, so I didn't look at my face. And nobody said anything before I put my mask on. So I was quite surprised when I walked by a mirror, and this is how my face looked. My lip was all the way up. My face was completely asymmetrical. Now, 5 years ago, I had a brain tumor and I had brain surgery. And on this side, my face was, maybe my lip wasn't quite as distorted, but my face was kind of like this. And it went on a long time, maybe a year, various degrees. And after that, less and less. And in the beginning, though, I didn't have the brain power to obsess about it. I wrote no paragraphs at all. I groomed myself, so I must have seen it in the mirror, but nothing registered. There was no commentary. God, how are you going to go through life looking like this? Or nothing, until I went to see the surgeon. And he said, I am so sorry I disfigured you. Well, you can imagine maybe that the thoughts did occur to me after he said that. And I looked at myself, but still I didn't have too much brain power to get going on the paragraphs. And I did notice that other people had stories. Oh, that nice man to stay with you when you look that way, or she must have had a stroke, or whatever people thought. But coming back to this week, my reaction from being trained with the radical now as my teacher and my touchstone, the word okay came out of my mouth. I don't know why. I wasn't in a process of becoming okay with it. It was very quick, where I went to, oh, that's not attractive. And then it stopped. It didn't go to, how am I going to live this way? And I'm no longer attractive. It just went to, okay. Then action happened. I can't say that I decided what to do or that I was choosing. My experience is action happened. I went to the computer and I looked up Novocaine reactions. And the first one said permanent palsy caused by Novocaine. I did not click on that one. The next one was things you can do to lighten or quicken the results of Novocaine reactions. I clicked on that and it said warm compresses and walking. I thought I can do that. Okay. And so I did do that. I was very clear that on my first Zoom call, which my face had gone back to pretty much 85 to 90%, I would say what happened as far as I'd been to the dentist, if I'm not talking quite as clearly as I usually do. But I didn't tell the story of my asymmetrical face. It was like the teacher from the Radical Now of the paragraphs. The paragraphs for me have been like akin to putting your hand in fire and leaving it there. It's just not something I'll do if I have a choice. So paragraphs do not happen with great abandon, let's say. So I never, it's just the touchstone of okay, meaning I open to it. That tug of war is not going to happen because I'm in the resonance of the now where suffering isn't happening. So there's a deep teaching there. And then I have my lightest example, because I want you to see, as I saw this week, that this is true. It seems when I say this process of saying okay to what is, not meaning you agree with it, because words are limiting. It means you're not going to pick up the tug of war. I'm not going to pick up the tug of war with this particular subject. So my third example is I moved to Florida for the winter. I know, lucky me. I am very grateful. And I am attached to my clothes. I like to take them with me. I prefer them to starting again or whatever is left in Florida. So that means I lug a lot of clothes with me, whether I'm living in Seattle or Florida. And we do know from Buddhism or many other traditions that attachments cause suffering, but I'll just be right here and say, I'm attached to the clothes. So I bring them all here, I hang them up, and I'm going, oh, there's so many clothes, but I brought them here. Okay. So on the other side of I want all the clothes is I prefer, it's not an attachment, it's not as big as an attachment. I prefer a leaner closet with not so much stuff. And I could have stayed on and on between the preference of having the closet be slim and thin with not a lot of stuff, or my attachment of having everything, but I would be on a merry-go-round, a cacophony of going up and down on the, what's the word? The roller coaster, because I could go in and judge myself to the closet for having so much stuff. And then I could enjoy the stuff, and there would be no way out except for, luckily, the touchstone of the radical now just prompted me to step out and smile. This is an impossible situation, and it's humorous, and it doesn't matter. I can either get rid of the clothes and not be attached, and either one is fine. I don't care. Meaning, not that I don't have any feelings, thoughts about it. I could bring up paragraphs, but the okay of I am not going to go to the tug of war with my closet. Now, that's a silly example. That's why it has this small wave. But I ask you, aren't they all the same? The big deals, the big waves, and the small waves. So now, Angela, we're done with slide 2. I'm going to ask you that question as you go in with me, maybe with your eyes open if you're available to that. If you're very uncomfortable with eyes open, you can close your eyes. But if your eyes are open, I invite you to look into your room. Look into this room and notice that there's space in the room. And look with different eyes. Look with soft eyes, as though you're not grasping for seeing. You're just allowing seeing. And notice that the air in the room and the space in the room might be something you hadn't noticed. Usually we think of a room with furniture, or now that we're in our own experience, I might be thinking of the chair that's holding me. But how often do I think of the ceiling? And unless I'm thinking of the flooring in terms of carpet, or changing the flooring, or it's cold or it's warmly heated, we generally think of the objects in our room, not so much the structure, the bricks and mortar or whatever put your dwelling together. And now let's break out from the space in your room. And you might want to look away from your monitor if you haven't already, and look into the space. Allow the space of the outside of your room to invite you. Look at the air, and as though the air and you are one, because where is the boundary between the space in your room and you, and the boundary between the walls and you and the outside and the air? It starts to become a little bit diffused if we now go into the wind and the trees being the objects outside. And let's go further out into the ocean. Imagine there's an ocean and we're a particular wave. Today we're a wave. And it might look like we're separate, different from the other waves. And that can be a metaphor of how we all appear different. And we're having different experiences. Different waves have different crashing abilities. But one thing is in common with the waves. They're all part of the ocean. And now if we go into the wind and the ocean interacting with us, I, the wave, am part of the ocean. And I, the wave, can interact with the sand and the rocks and the other waves and still be the ocean, even if I look like another wave. And even if I'm a disturbance or there is a disturbance in the waves from another crashing, we're all still part of the ocean. Now, there's one thing about being a wave and one thing about knowing that we are part of the ocean. It's an impersonal experience. It feels not like a person. Well, you might say it's a wave, it's an ocean, it's not a person. But let's take that impersonal experience and the knower that's there and come back into the room. And we're going to have a moment where we're going to acknowledge that there is a knower, because while you were in the wave or in your room, you were also still you. If I had asked you, are you present? There would be no break to see, where are you? You're always knowing you're alive. That never changes when you're a different age or having a different experience. As a matter of fact, we've all had the experience of not remembering driving our car somewhere. The knower the impersonal us drove that car. And so now, Faith, if you would be willing to come on and perhaps bring us back more slowly by singing the whole Blackbird song, and then we'll do it verse by verse. Thank you, Faith.
Thank you, Rosalind. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly. All your life, you were only waiting for this moment to arise. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these sunken eyes and learn to see. All your life, you were only waiting for this moment to be free. Blackbird fly, blackbird fly into the light of the dark black night. Blackbird fly, blackbird fly into the light of the dark black night. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly. All your life, you were only waiting for this moment to arrive. You were only waiting for this moment to arrive. You were only waiting for this moment to arrive.
Thank you, Faith. And I think we could go to the first slide and then we'll go to the second verse, all right? So the first slide is once upon a time, there was a person who thought he was, she was, they were, we were a blackbird. And in her unconscionable moment, unconscious moment of freedom, their arms are up, freely singing. And then the bird remembered that his wing was broken. And notice how the person's arm went down, and the person and the bird began the paragraphs up in the corner here. The paragraphs began, I have a broken wing. I can't fully sing now. There's something wrong with me. Does that sound familiar? All right, Faith, would you do first two?
Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these sunken eyes and learn to see all your life. You are only waiting for this moment to be free.
All right. So when the blackbird starts noticing her sunken eyes, they're from going over the past and the future, the chapters, the paragraphs written, and the energy starts getting sadder and sadder. And so you can take, Angela, this slide off while Faith does plays verse 3.
Blackbird fly, blackbird fly into the light of the dark black night.
Okay, Angela, there we go. Next one, please. All right. So here we have the dark night, but verses 3 and 4, the message is coming in. There is a light and you can fly. And the blackbird and the person are allowing that freedom to be possible. Okay, Faith, the next one.
Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly all your life. You are only waiting for this moment to arise. You are only waiting for this moment to arise.
Was that verse 4 or verse 5?
That was actually verse 5 because I thought you did.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. So Angela, can we have the slide for 5? All right. So right now, the blackbird is knowing she's, they, you, I have this moment. And notice the light is blazing and the arrow on this slide, we've left, the blackbird has left. We have left the story of our broken wing and taken the prompt from intuition to fly. And now we are soaring. Thank you, Angela. Thank you, Faith, for that beautiful experience. We're done with the slide now. Thank you. And so now we can go into the breakout, but we're going to have a song before the breakout, but we're going to the meditation for the breakout because I want you to take in that beautiful experience of Faith singing to us about the blackbird leaving the suffering of the broken wing, of his paragraphs, her paragraphs, your paragraphs, my paragraphs. And isn't there a technology, just a truth? Or is there for you? Or what would it be for you to just step outside of the tug of war and open to this moment, this radical now, where intuition and connection, the place that drives your car when you don't even know to ask, is available to drive your car. Everything is available to us in this moment without the thoughts and feelings. And what if it were as easy as dropping the rope? And what if we allowed the radical now into our daily lives more and more? Would we not find it easier to just say okay to the isness of what happens? And perhaps laugh at the insanity and the cacophony of the roller coaster. But we could maybe also bring this impersonal neutrality where wisdom abides without opinion, without preferences, without attachments. We could come back to the cacophony and participate with a little more resilience from the knowing of what we are. So I invite Omi Omi to do her second song now in preparation for the breakout. Thank you, Omi Omi.
You have to unmute Omi Omi, sorry. Can you unmute?
Omi Omi, we're not hearing you.
Sorry about that. I am, hello everybody again. I am going to sing a song in the tradition that I practice, where it is the depth of the ocean. And in the tradition that I practice, every single element of the earth, every single part of the earth is a spirit, is alive, and is here for us when we tap into that wonderful space. And so today I'm going to sing a song in particular about the depth of the ocean floor. And the name is Olokun. In the bottom, in the ocean deep, is the spirit that will help you to be. Oh, in the bottom, looks like no one is here, but let's go deeper, beyond thought and all fear. Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord, mi mami, oh, Dios, oh, oh, loco, mi barrio Dios, oh, loco. In the bottom, mysteries are free if you're willing if you're willing to see. Oloku mi mami yo. Oloku, oloku mi mami yo. Oloku, 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 oloku. In the bottom, mysteries are free if you're willing to see. Oloku mi mami yo. Oloku, oloku mi mami yo. Oloku.
Wow. Thank you for taking us to the depths of the ocean. Our hearts are wide open. Ashe, ashe. Now it's time for our breakouts. It's something special that we do in this service. You need not speak if you do not want to share. The question is going to be, it's not really a question. I'm going to ask you to future pace. And what we found in understanding how brains work, that if we can imagine ourselves in a process, then that process can happen more easily. So I would like you all, if you're willing to share in your small group, how you would future pace whatever had been your tug of war. So you don't have to tell the person, or you could say, my tug of war was relationship or the body. You don't have to be specific, but you would know what your paragraphs were. And future pace, what it would be like if you brought in the radical now, if you dropped the story with okay of the isness of this moment, where the cacophony is not happening. It's underneath the cacophony of the roller skate, of the amusement park. Underneath the amusement park is the radical now, the amusement park of life. All right. How do you imagine you'll go forward? Thank you, Kelly. If you use the radical now. I don't see the other people in the room. Just a minute. Okay. There. Okay, there we go. Everybody's here. Thank you. It's so good to be with you. Faith, would you start us off, because you were so magnificent to step in and sing with the depths of your spirit. the meaning. You brought even more meaning to my intuition about that song. Thank you, Faith.
Oh, thank you, Rosalind, too. And wow, what a beautiful presentation this was this morning and talk. There was so much richness in it. And Omi Omi just has these perfect songs that she's moving in today. The song about the ocean, I don't know if you planned that or not, but it was so
No, no.
just wonderful. Um, there was some, you know, this when I looked at that slide of the rope and the tug of war, there's something of that I noticed about that tug of war, that there's a loop in that rope. And that is what I started to consider about what's going on in my own life right now with promoting myself and getting myself out there with my new programs. And there's a tug of war I've been doing, and it's this loop that just keeps coming around about different stories I'm telling myself about it. And this morning or this afternoon was so lovely and deep because it allowed me to see that I'm going in that loop. And I can drop that rope and I can drop that loop, and I am the radical now of what is going on right now that is wonderful, and it's the opportunity to share.
Mm. Thank you, Faith. That's beautiful. And I'm glad you noticed that, because we put that in extra when we were making the slides, because on the other end of the slide is the subject, but then there's the where you get caught in your paragraphs on the subject. So thank you for amplifying that. That's so beautiful. Dove, my dear, would you share on anything that came up for you?
I thought the presentation was wonderful, and you certainly made your point. I guess we all have paragraphs, and I can't think of any one, but as you point out, in the radical here and now, you lose all that stuff in which you've been holding on to, and I guess that's the broken wing that you think about, because there's no reason to think about it, because that's the ego doing the thinking for you. Your willingness to let go of the past is really, that's the moral of the story. You know, I see only the past, which is lesson 7 of the Course in Miracles, translates back to if I am willing to be here now, I'm not living in the past. So you're either in time where things are always bumpy, or you're right here, right now, which is the only place you can really forgive yourself and forgive anyone.
Yes. How true, Dove. So true. Omi Omi, do you want to share?
Yes, thank you so much for calling on me. I am thinking about what comes up for me as a couple things. The saying, this is the day that the Lord has made, and I will rejoice and be glad in it. And the other thing is being at the crossroads. And in the tradition that I practice, the crossroads is an actual entity. And being in the space of the space that we're in, and just living and embracing everything in the now moment is the opening to transport us and move us forward into the next state of being. But when we're stuck in those like in attachments of what it is that we think should be, then we can stay at the crossroads for the rest of our lives until we say, yes, I'm willing to be this actual space that I have been created to do, and be right here and right now, and follow the breadcrumbs that are in front of me, and moving me and embracing all that is, because it is working for my highest and best good. And so thank you so much for all of the preparation that you've done and presenting that wonderful talk today. Thank you so much. And thank you, Faith, my beautiful friend, for doing such a magnificent job with that song. I love you so much. Ashe.
Ashe. Thank you, Omi Omi.
Ashe.
Angela, do you
Ashe.
have anything you'd like to share?
Yeah,
And thank you. Oh gosh, Angela, thank you for always being there for me.
oh, you're so sweet. It's my pleasure. And first, I thank you for, like Omi Omi said, your preparation and your artistry in sharing what came to you and the radical trust you have in the messages you receive, because I feel like you took us on an artistic journey that, for me, opens me up to listen to how Spirit speaks to me. Since I've never done the Sundays with Spirit speaking, and I feel like I'm not getting anything, but like you also just opened up this field for everyone. So as a speaker, that's what I would say. And it felt like the images you chose are very helpful to that sunset at the end, how bright and vibrant the light is. Like when you leave the story, you join the light. And just on a really practical level, I see the ropes, in my own life. And there's a deeper well of patience with me right now, because I'm doing this meditation, which feels like it gives me this deeper well of pause before I react. And I'm really I'm not holding on to the rope. I'm holding on to the pause. And remembering something Jennifer said this week in her family forgiveness, which was just because for me, relationship is often where I can get tripped up and upset and fearful. Like you said, what do you say? Future casting? I can't remember though.
Future pacing.
Future pacing. But something she said was just like, just imagining you're the other person. How would you want someone responding to you when you're struggling? Which helps me with my daughter, which is helping me with my husband. And so instead of taking the rope, struggling, I'm pausing, and then I'm remembering what, and just asking to do the most loving thing I can possibly do. So I'm in a good space today. It feels like I've got a well of patience and I can make these calculated moves. But your talk just really gave me some other visuals. Like I can even feel that the rope, how the ropes are like rough and they hurt if you hold them. And so you just helped me have a few more images to keep me on the same path of freedom. So thank you, Rosalind.
Thank you, Angela. And what if freedom was that easy? Just dropping the rope. What if? I can't tell, Dove, if you have your hand up or if you're scratching your head. Oh. Okay. All right. Kelly, do you have something you want to say? Share?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Rosalind, for such a beautiful interpretation, really inspired interpretation of that song, and taking that meaning and giving it to us. I like your use of the words paragraphs. It's a bit like narrative therapy, where we're separating ourselves from the story that we make of things. So it was interesting to look at the way that I've written my story. I'm so grateful to hear that, to be able to take that inwards and chew on it for a few days. And also, as Angela said, the rope, the tug of war, which is often, we're like this, and there's the parts of us that are going between the two. And I really want to say thank you so much, Faith, I know as a musician, that's a very difficult song. Not only is it a difficult song as the chord progressions, but the finger picking, you really did that song such a beautiful justice. And I recognize now in that chord progression how it goes up like a blackbird, like a bird. It goes up and then it comes down, and it's just such a beautiful song. So thank you so much, Faith.
Thank you, Kelly. Angela, I would like to say something to you based on what Kelly just said. When I say yes, I will give a talk, I might not have the subject, but then I assume that everything pretty much is a message of about that talk. So I was listening to a book on another topic, and the blackbird came out on And I went from the bottom up. I took from all the examples that were given to me, cacophony. Okay, so what's that word about? It's not in my repertoire. What, oh, that's so I feel that when you say yes, you will be given your talk. I know it. Arba, would you like to say something? You're muted still.
Yes. Thank you so much, my beautiful friend, dear friend, Rosalind. Oh, as you were talking, what came to mind for me was a conversation we'd had within the few months, and what happens when a transformational author is writing and undergoing transformation, and the tug of war that can occur as you are looking at yourself, and the parts that Kelly had mentioned, when parts feel in conflict and you are really trying to heal that portion. And something you had said to me during that time reminded me of what Omiami, excuse me, spoke. And that's being at that crossroads, right? It's knowing that perhaps you aren't moving forward in this moment because you are still learning, and being open to that learning right here, because that is what will take you forward beyond the crossroads. And that just seemed to tie in so much with your talk today and the radical now. What is it that I can learn when I let go of the ropes and be here in the now, and how that is actually my way forward.
So beautiful, Arba. Thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations on your TED Talk. I cannot wait.
Thank you. Oh, it's very sweet. Would anybody else like to fill in? Angela, how much time do we have left before people come back?
We have just over 5 minutes.
Okay, great. 5 minutes. Anybody else like to share that's here? Laurel, would you like to share? Maybe not. Not coming on camera. Anybody else? Raise your hand if you have more to say. Arva, did you have your hand up? Yeah.
Yes, I could say a little bit more. I wanted to thank Faith, especially too, for her music and her sharing. And when you began with talking about the Blackbird, and the story about the person who thought they were a black bird, I really thought you were going to weave that into A Course in Miracles, the story from Helen's dream about being a gray bird or a blue bird, and how we can change. Oh, it's convenient to be a gray bird in this moment. Okay, but it's convenient to be a blue bird. And I don't even know if I'm a bird in the end, because I'm confused about those two aspects of myself, and really being above the battleground, learning that you don't need to stay within the battle, but can be above the battleground. And to me, that's really what the radical now represents, right? That it is not the, am I blue, am I gray? Am I blue sometimes and sometimes gray? What do the other bluebirds or the gray birds think? But being able to watch it all from the space of deep knowing, which is above the battleground, which A Course speaks to quite clearly. So thank you for actually taking it in a slightly different direction, that was actually really helpful and brought mind to me of that particular story for Helen.
Yeah, so clear, Araba. Thank you, and Dove agrees. I have a question for you. Was I able to communicate either in my examples or my words how empty the radical now is, how freeing it is of suffering because of how quiet it is? And I think the next time I ever talk about it, I think I need to say that more. Is that clear? Could somebody give me some feedback? Yeah, Faith.
I believe that you didn't say those words in your talk, but when you spoke about your daughter and in that moment where you were looking at your suffering and you were able to be in the radical now, and how still that was, and how that was empty of the suffering.
Yes.
Well, I believe that for me, you really spoke to it, and it really moved me in that space, and it was very clear to me. And I was just thinking about that, my own story and my own thing that I've been going through, that it's about just in that emptiness of the story, there is this moment of great self-acceptance.
Yes. And it's not personal anymore. There isn't even a self anymore.
Wow.
It's so empty. And if we took this moment that we're together, we could say, this is the moment we're together and this is what's happening now. But the radical now is even underneath that, where nothing is happening. And we get a break from happening. We get a break from, and if we haven't found it yet, because we still think, oh, am I making sense? Or how do I look? Or whatever thought we have, we just know we're not in the radical now yet. We're still in the local observer, the local whatever that's close to our personality. We're on a journey back to the radical now, but we're not quite there because it's so empty and so full at the same time of nothingness. It's that unique experience of not being personal. We take everything so personal because we believe we're people, right? And so I guess that's what I would want to say more of if I did the same subject again.
Well, thank you for adding that, because that was so deep and really took me to a new space, even with that idea of that knowingness. And I know that I have been in that space, and that's just that place of not needing, and it's not needing anything in that moment, but to just.
Yeah. You don't even exist because you're the space.
Yeah.
There isn't, you're still there. You never forget that we're there. Oh, that's great. Everybody's coming back. Yay. Did you have a good breakout group? Could you put in the chat anything that you're claiming about your future pacing? Thank you so much. Let's see. Angela, do you want to share the announcements and do the offering?
Sure. So thank you, everyone. Yes, we hope you had a good breakout and that you'll share any of your decisions or insights in the chat. And we're so thankful for Rosalind and Omi today, and Faith and Kelly and everyone who's helping. So this is the time just to remind you how you can support the ministry to continue to do this week after week, so that the ministry can also cover the cost of the staff, and also to send donations to our speakers. So I'm putting in the chat just where you can make a donation, and that's at our Living A Course in Miracles site. And we often mention too that you can sign up for the text messages as a way of donating and also receiving something at the same time. And Also, this is our time to let you know what's going on in the ministry. We have, I can't believe we're at the end of the year, so we're gearing up for actually the start of next year, but we do have several offerings right now. I think my coworker is on the same document with me, helping me out. So we do have, Jennifer's offering her Forgive and Be Free, a class series. And that's a 3-part series. So that's in there. So Forgive and Be Free. She loves to do lots of forgiveness work around the holiday time. And just to kind of close out the year, feeling like you cleaned your forgiveness list. You got your Christmas list, but you want to clear off your unforgiveness list. And then we have another exciting offering from one of our counselors, and she's offering the Prosperous Practitioner class, Lori Gifford, who was here with us last week. So Lori's offering the Prosperous Practitioner. She's sharing from her experience how to build a practice that is abundant and prosperous. So that's also in the chat. I'd like to mention that we are still recruiting people for our Miracle Circles program. And so Miracle Circles are going to be starting as soon as we have a full group of people to fill. We have 4 circles to begin. We have trained facilitators ready to start. And those circles are just a time to gather and talk about living A Course in Miracles. So I'm putting that also in the chat. So it's your experience studying the course and practicing it and having a group of people to share what's coming up around that for you, and to be supported and motivated to keep going and to let go of the rope and to do all the things that we learned today. Saskia, I can see your hand up. Do you have a question about something I'm saying, or hold on a second? Go ahead. You'd have to unmute first, Saskia.
Yeah, I was hoping you were going to say how to join. I can't remember how to copy the chat.
Okay, well, if you'd like to join, I can surely get you the link and send it to you directly. But
Please.
I'm sorry?
Yes,
There's
please.
Okay, great. I will do that, because there's an application at the bottom of that page on the Miracle Circle tab from the Living A Course in Miracles site. So we'll make sure that you get it. I can send it to you after this. Yeah. So that's what I'll mention, but you can find all of the offerings at our events tab at jenniferhadley.com. That's where you can get the full list and not have to click around right now. But yes.
Thank you.
And then, of course, we're gearing up for Masterful Living. That's our big promotion right now. But on our website, Masterful Living is at front and center because 2022 is coming. And if you join now for Masterful Living, you get a bunch of bonuses that are including the Forgive and Be Free. You get a bunch of these classes happening at the end of the year so that you can, again, clear the year and start off next year with a bang. So yes, Masterful Living. I think I've got it. Thank you,
Angela. That's great.
Thank you, team.
Yeah, thank you. All right. So if anybody wants to reach me, they can reach me at rosalindrourke.com. Also, I want to share that I asked Karine Dorsey yesterday what the gift that I have on my website, she heard is a story on at a grief group, and I asked her, what do you remember that Tulip and Tree is about? And she said, I would say it's about the truth of our interconnection and the realization of our interdependence. The acceptance of it is very liberating. It's like a children's story, people tell me, and it's your gift if you visit rosalindrourke.com. And Dove and I do a class Tuesday nights that's free. Dove is a master interpreter of the Course in Miracles, and we have a fun time together. And Monday afternoons, Eastern time, I do a free Glimpses of Awakening session. It's meditation and non-dual teachings. And Kelly is available to connect with. You can see on the chat, she is a spiritual counselor in training, soon to be certified, and would love to connect with you there. Omi, do you have anything that you can tell us about your music coming up? You're muted, my dear.
Yes, you can find my music on iTunes, and I will type in the website, omiomimusic.com is one. And my other website is flamesoflovehealingservices.com, because I am also a practitioner, a minister, a priest, and I do offer readings for people, and I own my own products as well for cleansings, and I would just love to just hear from you if you go to the website, and I will put the website in the chat, both websites.
Thank you, Omi. All right,
Ashe.
we have our last song and our last prayer, and we'll be on our way.
All right. All right. This is an old familiar song. I sing this song every day. Just a closer walk with me. Granted, Spirit is my plea. Hey. And daily walking close to thee. Let it be, yeah, God. Let it be. Just a closer walk with thee. Granted, Spirit is my plea, and daily walking close to thee. Let it be. Just a closer walk with me. Granted, Spirit is my thing. Yeah, God. Daily walking close to thee. Praise God, love God, thank God, worship God, thank you God, thank you everybody, love you everybody, thank you all through the morning, thank you God, everywhere I go God, everywhere I am God, everything you do God, everything you be God, everywhere I am God, everything I love God. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Just a closer walk with me. Granted, Spirit is my plea. Yeah, God. Daily walking close to thee. Let it be.
Ashe, Omi Omi, thank you for that send off. How exquisite. We're flying like the blackbird, soaring. Oh, Kelly, will you take us out?
Gratefully. Thank you so much, Homie. Such a beautiful rendition of that song. Okay, so we're placing our hands on our hearts, and we're so grateful to remember that all moments are neutral. We're so grateful to welcome the radical now into our lives. We're so grateful to know that the peace of God is shining in us now. We're so grateful to give up our paragraphs, our attachments to suffering, and stepping into the radical now, where the Holy Spirit and that holy instant resides. We go forward and we bless ourselves, and we bless Rosalind for her beautiful service today. It's so inspiring. For Omi, for her beautiful music, for Faith and her lovely rendition of Blackbird, and Angela for her organization and co-piloting, Glazy behind the scenes as well, and GJ, and Jennifer in the spiritual counseling training intensive, who'll be back next week. We're so grateful to claim and allow and receive this healing going forward, transmuted and transformed and inspired into our nights and into our days. We claim this healing now. We declare it done. We allow it and we receive it, and we share the benefits with everyone because we are one. In grace and gratitude, we let this healing be. And so it is. Amen, Amen, Ashe.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Kelly, for the gorgeous prayer out. Yay. Bye, everybody. We love you. Thanks for being here.